waiting for the dog to quit barking. Shh. Quiet. Shh. Quiet. Shh. Hey, Gramma Rose here. I'm in my garden, waiting for the dog to quit barking. So, I had decided to divide the video into 2 parts. So this is part 2 of my May garden video. I've got a May garden tour. And as the first part of this was of the area of the property outside of the garden. I did a loop around the property, not the back part. We didn't go back into the field or the pasture and the woods behind, but just around the house, around the property, from the front door around to the chicken coop and back around to the front door again. And now my dog is what is he doing? He's lying down here next to me, being a good dog. Every time, with what's going on with us right now, people are home that aren't usually home during the day. And my neighbors are walking down the road. And every time the dog sees one of the neighbors walking down the road, he starts barking and he starts having a fit. He is not accustomed to seeing people walking down the road. He's been a solitary dog and he has not been socialized very well. And that's my fault. But I suppose when you live in the country, what do? Unless you have a lot of people coming over, he's not going to meet a lot of people. Not going to see a lot of people and realize that they're not invaders. Like invaders, the body snatchers. They're going to snatch my body. But anyway, let's get on with the tour of the backyard. The back garden. I won't say backyard. My backyard is the part that I showed in the previous video that has the propane tank in it. And so this is not my backyard. This is my kitchen garden. And actually this whole area outside my steps, from my back steps, the whole area is my kitchen garden. There is an area in the middle that does need to be mowed or at least weed-eated, a string trimmer. But I've got a fenced part to keep the dog out. And then I've got the rest of it that he tromps in, and he does smash plants every now and then, but not very often. I've had to put some little fencing around things that I normally wouldn't do. It's not terrifically attractive, but it's a protectant against the dog. It doesn't help other critters that are in here giving me problems, but it does pretty much keep the dog out of the vegetable beds, and that's the main purpose of it. So let's get on with this. I will start where I had previously intended to start the second part of this video, with me going at my back door. So here we go. See you in a minute. Okay, y'all, I have finished my coffee, and let's go outside and let's look at my garden. There he goes. Down my steps. Bang! Screen door slammed. So I'm still standing on my steps, so this is what I see when I come out my back door. And so there's the plants. And all of these that you see, I think maybe 2. There may be 2 or 3 that I actually bought. But all the rest of them are plants that I started from seed. Under there too. So let me show you what's on this table before I do anything else, since we're right here. Let's look under it first. So on the left side, well, there's water that needs to be dumped out. But we've got eggplant that are pitiful. So those are probably not going to do anything with those. They just didn't do well. And this right here is an oxalis that I dug up when I put something else where that was. And tomatoes, leftover tomatoes. I've already planted all of mine. And here's more tomatoes over there underneath, and a coleus that I bought. And these on the top of this shelf right here, the top are some dianthus, some Sweet William that I haven't got in the ground yet. So this is a mixture of both vegetables and flowers and some herbs. Now these over here, let's start at the left side here in the front. That is peppermint. We have some oregano, and most of this is just leftover things. There's one measly little dill plant. This is right there. That's lemongrass. And a couple of little chives. And these are the kale that didn't get planted. I have planted some, but that's left over. And these are left over. There's mustard and kale that I hate to put it on the compost, but that's where it belongs. Now these right here, these are tomatillos. This one got broken and it's put it back, and same thing on that one. And there's a little one down there too. Now these are my peppers. Very, very sad peppers. I don't know what happened, but they have never done anything. They're in the same soil as I have my tomatoes. I started them a week ahead of my tomatoes. And one of them actually has 1, 2, 3 sets of true leaves, so that one will get planted. And so I bought pepper plants, and most of them have already been planted. And again, here's more tomatoes. Leftover tomatoes and leftover tomatoes. These are the ones that were little, and when I divided them, I left these in these pots, and they just didn't do anything. They just stunted. Eggplant right here. They look sad, but they're actually doing okay. When you get them in the ground, they're fine. And here's flowers. This little plant right here, see my finger? There's my finger on it. Those are chocolate flowers. It's a perennial native to Texas and the Mesa country, and Mexico, and on into, I think, Colorado and other places. And it will grow pretty much anywhere. So I'm going to put that out there. They get like two or so feet wide and another couple of feet tall, and will survive in anything from gravelly, rocky soil to clay, and like full sun. So I'll find a place for those, but I haven't decided yet. These are 4 o'clocks. Looking pretty good. Now these plants right here, these are called Park's Candy Lily. I ordered them from Park Seeds. It's exclusive to that seed company. It's a cross between blackberry lily and something else. So instead of the orange with the spots that blackberry lily has, they're colorful and they're pretty. And let's look here. Those are hollyhocks. There's some petunias. There's a toothache plant. And there's more of the candy lily here. This right here doesn't look like much of anything, but if you look closely, there are plants coming up. And this is called Formosa lily. Formosa lily. They're white lilies, really, really pretty. These plants right here are perpetual spinach, which is actually a chard. And I haven't planted them yet. I mean, they're just now getting their true leaves. So they need to be divided and planted. And I'll show you these things in a minute. Let's look more flowers and herbs. So this is coxcomb. I'll tell you the story on this in just a minute. Oh, well, let me tell you the story on these now. Why they are here and they're so little when they should be bigger. I had a whole tray like this size, with these same seeds in them. But I had them where, like this, you can see on this, where part of it is hanging over the edge. You see that? Well, I removed the ones here, and left these too heavy. They flopped over. So I had to replant. They were upside down on top of each other. And all of these labels that you see in here are the labels that were left over from the ones that fell out, and I couldn't. Well, I actually salvaged some, but they didn't have labels. I didn't know what they were. So these are my basil and amaranth. And coxcomb is in the amaranth. So there's amaranth and basil. One that's Jewels of Opar, which I've had before, which is, I think it's, trying to think, purslane. I think it's in the purslane family. And this is jute, which is actually Egyptian spinach. So those will go in the ground before long. They'll get tall, like 6 feet tall. And I looked, and it recommended planting them among zinnias or flowering plants like that get tall. So that's what I'm going to do. And over here, this is sage. And these sickly looking plants right here are my winter squash, and they need to go in the ground. I've got butternut squash, buttercup squash, and North Georgia candy roaster. And in here there's echinacea, or herbs, and that's cosmos. This plant right here is a spider flower. There's a marigold and more cosmos. One last nasturtium. Oh, it's got flower on it. Those need to go in the ground. I was saving these for a friend, and she hasn't come to get them yet. Now back in here, these are my like melons and cucurbits. So these two, well, these are not cucurbits. These are mallows. These are two different kinds of okra, right there where my hands are. I've got Star of David and Clemson spineless okra. Now here, these on this side, these are different cucumbers. Back there's a loofah. It's a Texas, it's called Texas okra, which is actually it's a loofah. And then 3 different kinds of watermelons. The Sugar Baby. Here is Charleston Gray. And these are orange glow watermelon that I got from Becker Creek. More flowers. There's cosmos back in here in the back. Cucamelon. That's the Mexican gherkin. And these are zinnias. These are bell peppers right there. And these 2 different kind of peppers. And these are here yellow, excuse me, my yellow squash, lemon squash, zucchini, patty pan squash, and melons that are left over. I've already planted my melons. And then these 2 little trays, that's right here, are the seeds that I was able to salvage after my pot fell over, after the tray fell over. And so there's melons. And here, these are potato onions. These are the bunching onions. They're also called nest onions. Marigolds. It's balsam. I've dug these up out of the yard, out of my garden. There's the rest of the oregano. I've planted some already. I'll show you in a minute. And this is, it's not balloon flower. It's labeled balloon flower. But I had balloon flower and another flower next to each other. The labels fell out and I didn't know which were which. And I couldn't find the label to the other one. Maybe I didn't label it. I don't know. But they're coming up. And when they flower, I'll find out what they are. So these are the plants that I have here that I have left over. Now let's walk around. Let's see. Let's do a... Where shall I start? I know where I'm going to start. I'm going to start over by the gate. Back over in there. Let's see my garbage can up against. So here we're going to start at this corner. There's the gate coming in. Now in this corner right here, now I showed you, here's the grapes. I showed you the grapes. So here's this side of the grapes. And there's elderberry right in there. Oh, I see some more grapes that are growing up in the elderberry. And these elderberries are also getting flowers on them. So in this area right in here, now that is rusty, I don't use it, and I put it there to keep the dog from getting on that echinacea. So we've got echinaceas coming up right in here. And right here against the fence, the tall plants are Monarda, bee balm. It's a red bee balm. And the same thing over here on this side. This would all be bee balm in here too if I didn't keep it weeded for the echinacea. There's more coming up in here. And it'll flower pretty soon. It's getting tall. And blueberries. Oops. Leaning out onto the pathway. Blueberries. And more blueberries. And blueberries. Before long they'll be blue. Put on a lot of growth this year. More blueberries right there in the middle. Like I said, here to the left, on this fence is the garden fence. There's peas. Now these are snow peas. And this is what is the name of it? And along here also, there's tomatoes. And there's a little tomato there. And lettuce. Lettuce and tomatoes in here among the peas. So I've been eating on the lettuce. I planted the tomatoes because before long the peas are going to be gone, the lettuce is going to be gone. Isn't the lettuce pretty? It's looking good. And then I will replace the peas with runner beans. Probably my rattlesnake beans. They're my pole beans. So that's what's all along here. There are, I think, 7 tomato plants. And along the outside of my garden, I have the cherry tomatoes planted. Now let's look over here on this side. The blueberries again. Another sticking out over here. And this is why this is not going to be a permanent gate. Well, it will be a permanent gate, but I'm going to have to replace this gate, probably because next year maybe, or at least the year after that, these blueberries will have grown enough that they're going to be blocking this pathway. So what do I have in this half of the bed? Call it a bed. It's a garden bed, I suppose. It's true. Look over here. Let me back up. Come back around this way. So in here, right there, that is a it's a straight neck yellow squash. Back in there, it just looks like weeds, but it's not. That's more Monarda and lemon balm. And there's a miniature blueberry in the middle. And on this side of that, yes, that is weeds that need to come up. There are elderberry seedlings, not seedlings. They're elderberries coming up from the roots that are coming off these elderberries. I was but texting a friend the other night and talking about elderberry that I had gifted him last year, and how I have elderberries coming up everywhere, and if I didn't keep them under control, they would take over. And this is what this area under the elderberries looks like. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 different elderberry plants in here that I'm going to have to dig up because I've got other things growing. Now there's some flowers in here. Let me step over here. I don't want to step on plants because I do have things planted in here, but I'm going to walk in here so you can see. Now those pink flowers are a penstemon. The species of this penstemon is native to this part of the country, but I believe I got these from seed. I started these from seed, and I don't remember what the variety name of these is. Now here is this pretty clematis from this side in the birdhouse. See my birdhouse? There's actually blueberries nesting in that birdhouse. And back in this corner, some phlox, pretty phlox. And the arbor that I need to, I'm going to put, chicken wire on this side of the fence because I have Malabar spinach planted right there in front of that to grow in that arbor. Now, if I can back up, right in here, there's a zucchini. Over here, in front of the phlox, some calendula, some strawberries. And let me back up. These are Tokyo white not bunching onions. Are they bunching onions? Yeah, Tokyo white bunching onions from 2 years ago. They flowered and they produced seed. And from that seed, I started these in front, these little ones. And so these will be my bunching onions to eat this year. And those other ones are perennial, and they will continue flowering and producing seed every year. Now this area, this part right in here, it just looks like dirt. Can you see? There's onions. Do you see the onions coming up? Okay. Those are the potato onions, the nest onions. They're multiplying onions. And the same place I got the seeds that I showed you the seeds, I actually ordered some of the sets, onion sets. I guess they're onion sets, but they're perennial. So instead of being like the onion sets that you dig up and produce the big bulb, they are going to multiply. And they call them nesting onions, I think. What else? But potato onions. They call them potato onions because they divide and they produced small onions all along the outside, like a potato under the ground produces potatoes. So that's why they call them potato onions. Now I don't have anything planted right here, mainly because I've got this squash right here. Then I know that squash is going to probably creep in here and it's going to cover this area, so I don't see any point in planting anything right there. And the same thing with that zucchini over there. I don't have anything planted around that either because I know it's going to take up a lot of space. Now right here, now this is echinacea. Now echinacea back by the gate, and this is more echinacea. But this is the green, what is it, green, remember the name of it, that I planted from seed last year. These two. Let me look and see if I can find have a tag here. What is it called? Green twister. So that's green twister echinacea. And this one right here, I bought the plant at the co-op the other day. And this one is Cherokee Spirit echinacea. And these are a couple of little 6-packs or 4-packs, whatever, of alyssum that'll be a nice little ground cover right in here. And won't last long. They don't last very long in the heat of our southern summers. Now let's come over here. There's the arbor. I talked about planting Malabar spinach. So I've got Malabar spinach planted on this side of it because that was the sunny side. The other side of it is shady. It's in the shade of this crepe myrtle right in here. So I spent yesterday doing that. So I moved this little fence out about a foot, and I got all the grass and all the weeds out of here. And this pretty pink spirea back in there. See the pink flowers on this spirea. There was one right over here that was separate, and when I was clearing out the grass, I dug that up. So I just stuck it in the ground just to keep it ready, keep it from dying. I didn't have a pot to put it in, so I will give that away to a friend. And we've got daylilies and tradescantia. In here. I've planted a kind of rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan, that I planted from seeds. You can see, look in there, you see the teeny tiny little plants right in there. So I planted those yesterday. Little bitty plants that are going to be a perennial. Should be pretty. And there is a native black-eyed Susan right there by the fence. All of these iris. This is the Louisiana iris. And I dug up that much of it. It looks like the dog's been there on them. But yeah, I need to give those away. I'll cut the tops off of them and trim the roots down and give those to friends. And I think I bought one of those in one of those little plastic pouches that you get at Walmart several years ago. And I've gotten that many. It has expanded that much. It's grown that much and spread that I have enough to share with I don't know how many people. And one of those plants sold for $5. So, back in here, more. Back in here, little bitty things, teeny tiny little bitty things. You can even see the teeny tiny little bitty thing right there. And right in there. I'll show you some more. Right in there. Teeny tiny little bitty things. Look like marigold seedlings. Right in there. That is New Zealand spinach. And it'll stay short, about a foot tall. And I think it's an annual. But that's going to be a spinach substitute. And these right here, this is Touch Me Nots. It's balsam. What is it? Impatiens balsamina. So it's in the same genus as the Impatiens that is used for poison ivy antidote. And supposedly this has very similar properties. In these little cups, look what it looks like cups, starting to get sprinkled on. This is banana peppers, 2 banana peppers. And that's because I've had something eating my peppers, which is why we've got cups around things like that. This one right here was eaten down. You can see in the middle. See, it was eaten all the way off. It actually left the true leaves, so that is coming back. Now this one's a Marconi. I replaced one that was over there. Marconi that was eaten down. I think it's rats. So I've got rat traps. Haven't caught anything in the last 3 nights, but I had to replace the peppers that I bought last week and replant them. So all in here is peppers. Got pepper here, here, over here are peppers. And right there in the middle is it's lemon squash. I mentioned looking at the seedlings that I had already planted the squash. Lemon squash there, and a lemon squash right there. And back on this trellis, you see this trellis that I made with sticks out of the garden and some welded fencing. These are cucumbers. Now this is a Japanese cucumber. And I have those protecting them from whatever the critter is. And back in here in these little cups, this is dill. And there was another dill back in here that, there it is, right in there. There's a little dill. And it hasn't been eating, maybe because dill is so aromatic, whatever the critter is, it's not eating that. But I think it's mice or rats coming in from under my house. See, can you see right there at the foundation? There's a space. And again, right over here by that post for the trellis, there's another space behind that. So I think it's rodents underneath my house. Could be squirrels. Don't know what it is, but they're eating it off just like it's been buzzed off, just like it's been clipped off with clippers or sharp teeth. In here, tomatillos. You see how nice these tomatillos look? This is what happens with those tomatillos that look pretty spindly on the table when they get put in the ground. More of the balsam. Now this has come up from seed from last year. Okay. Look at these things in a minute. Over in here, underneath the wastebaskets, this is eggplant. See, I had to do something to protect these plants from the critters. And flowers that have been eaten off. They were lush and they got eaten off. Garlic chives. This is a frilly mustard that is spicy and it's wonderful in a salad. Right in there is pineapple sage with some pretty white oxalis. And behind it, right in front of the kitty litter container, is some more Predescantia, spiderwort. Now this area right in here, I'm going to dig all of this out. In here somewhere, like right in there in the middle, is a gardenia bush. And it has just gotten totally encompassed, overgrown by mint and iris and grass. It's a perennial grass that I planted. It's pretty. However, I guess it's not such a bad spot for a perennial grass, but I want to put plants there. That would be another good spot for another trellis for more cucumbers. Or something. Something that grows in a trellis. So I'm busy with the rest of the garden. I haven't gotten to digging this out, but this is going to get done. Because this, you see this area right in here, it's part of my garden. Even though it's not part of my main garden, each of these spots is growing vegetables. Okay. So eggplant and tomatillos. Over on that side are cucumbers and peppers. Now over here, this is the big thing. This is the big thing that I've done. Now, when I moved into the house, well, that's my mess on my steps. Everybody has to have a messy spot. But these porch rails, handrails, were not here. These were put in last year. And when that happened, the stepping stones that went from here back that way to my shed back in the back, I really couldn't access them very easily anymore. So I thought about it and thought about it. In the past, over there were the onions and the blueberries and strawberries. All of these things were, I had an herb bed over there. And grew, well, like I said, there's still, the lemon balm is still there. Echinacea is still there. But the rest of it I'm moving over here. So let me turn around. So this part right in here is going to be herb bed. I've dug all of this out. Put some cardboard down. Got black cow manure in here on top of it. And in this part here, there's some nasturtiums right in there. Another pretty oxalis. This one's pink. And here, there, and there, and there are Genovese basil. Back in there, and I mentioned when we were looking at the seedlings, that's oregano. That I've already planted 3 of the oregano, and those are multiple plants in each of those clumps. I haven't decided whether to let them grow as clumps or whether to weed them or thin them down to 1 plant each. Haven't decided that yet. But over in here, this is yarrow. I've planted a creeping rosemary, because this rosemary right here is sad looking. Half of it died last year, and I was afraid the other half was going to die. So I found a creeping rosemary at the nursery, or at the co-op actually, and I planted that there. Now okay, in here, there's some more pink oxalis, and you see the hose going across it. That's the hose that goes back to my chicken yard. The stevia. Now stevia is a perennial here, so it comes back every year. And there's a spot between the stevia and that rosemary, and I haven't decided what I'm going to put there yet. Now behind it, those are calla lilies. I had flowers in here before, so the flowers are still coming up. And there's some more flowers coming up in the middle of that oxalis. And over here on the other side of that rosemary is a kind of phlox. So here's yarrow. Now, back over there, you see those 2 blue labels. To the right, to the right side label is marshmallow. And on this side, there is some cardinal basil. And this side right in here, there's clove basil and one little borage plant. My borage seeds didn't do well. Now at the co-op, I found lemon verbena. And back here, by the bowling ball, to the left side of the bowling ball, is a lavender. And I'm going to get another bag of garden soil of some kind. Probably the Black Cow makes a garden soil, so I'm going to get a bag of that and fill this up to the top of these boards here to make this more of a raised bed, because lavender likes well-drained soil, and I'm afraid it's not going to do very well where it is. So I'm going to give some more soil in there and move that lavender back toward the front of this, so it'll kind of trail over this board and be nice. And there's more flowers, and back here in the back, by that fence, right there in front of the fence, is where I'm going to plant the hollyhocks. And Tradescantia. And I've got a teepee right here that I'm going to put some climbing beans on. And right to the left of that little teepee, is a comfrey. And right over here, this side, is chocolate. That's chocolate mint and irises and daylilies and another comfrey. Right in here, there's a comfrey. You see that? Let's walk back this way. Okay. This right here, of course, I said I was going to do the beans. Some runner beans. But I'm also going to put one of the sage plants that I have, because it also likes well-drained soil, and this is a little bit raised over the level of the rest of it. So I'm going to try see if a sage will grow here. I have not had a lot of good success with sage, and I know other people have. I haven't. We'll try it again, and I will continue to try it and find the perfect spot for it, because I want it. Now over against this fence right here, you can see labels. There's a green label over here, the base of the fence, and yellow labels over here. Now the green label is the Malabar spinach, another one. We'll try 2 spots for the Malabar spinach. And these labels right here are for a Haugen melon. That's an Israeli melon, a small, like individual sized melon. And I've got little border pieces behind it because the chickens keep sticking their heads through the fence and looking for worms and things on this side of the fence, and I'm afraid they're going to find those melon seedlings and dig them up. So I'm hopefully I'm blocking them from that. And I can see over there on the other side of the fence a dust bath that the chickens are using. More grass that I've pulled out from this side. That's where these plants are now. There was big tall grass, and that's what's in that grass back there in the back. Now turn back around again. So there's the comfrey right in here. Chocolate mint, more oxalis in there. And in this corner, this was really bad clay, and I've mixed in some black cow manure, but there's zinnias planted in here. Zinnias, and then back here behind the zinnias is some cosmos. And I still haven't planted anything here, and I haven't decided what's going to be there. Now this part back here, you see cardboard on the ground. That's just going to be a path. You know how dogs love to run fences, so I'm not going to plant anything right where he's going to have his run, because I know he's going to have a run. Excuse me. Clear my throat. I know he's going to have a run there. But look in here, the daylilies. The daylilies are budding out. We're getting flowers in the daylilies. Okay, so we're on this side now. Over here, look at the roses. Isn't that beautiful? Aren't they pretty? This is called Summer Romance. It was developed by Cordes, K-O-R-D-E-S, and it's just lovely. smells wonderful. It's heavenly smelling. One of the most highly aromatic roses I've ever had. Smells so good. And it's in the Cordis perfuma, or parfuma group of their roses. Now more of the, this is the Louisiana iris growing in here, like the ones that I've dug up on the other side, in here. And then more, back this part right in here, these feathery looking, all the rose petals, but these feathery looking little plants back in here are, what are they called, Nigella or Love in a Mist. And I had grown the seedlings, and I looked to see where they were good companion plants for them, and it said they were good around roses, so I planted them here in front of this rose bush. Now over here are more zinnias. I'm going to have lots of zinnias. Lots and lots and lots of zinnias this year. And here among the zinnias, our little plant, there's one right there in the middle. It's called a tassel flower, called Emilia. E-M-I-L-I-A, Emilia. And I saw a picture of it in the middle of some zinnias, and it looked pretty, so I thought I would plant these in here with the zinnias. And let's look over here. And I mentioned having the cherry tomatoes. Well, this one, that one's blooming, and more nasturtiums. And look at the weeds. Oh my goodness, look at the weeds. I showed you the bark on the other side earlier in this video, and that's going to go in here. Because these tomatoes are looking beautiful. You saw the tomatoes in those cups under the table. Well, that's what they look like. That's what these came from. And they really, really do take off once they get in the ground. So we've got right now, nasturtiums and tomatoes in here. Over on this side are cabbage and kale and some chard. And the cabbage is hitting. I don't know if I'll ever get anything from it, but it's heading up. It looks good. And parsley. And there's the chard. And there's the kale. It's the blue curled kale. And my beautiful, beautiful canna lily. Let's look at the garden. And I'll be just about done. Now, on this side, this arbor up here, Kajari melons are planted on the arbor. That's what these red cups down here are. Kajari melons. And something ate them, so I've replanted seeds, and hopefully they'll come up, and I'll have more Kajari than I do right now. But over here on this side, to the left of the arbor, this is blue flag iris. It's a native iris. And taking over this entire area of my garden. Let's get in here and look at it. See there in the middle, the dog likes to lay. But this whole area, 10, 15 feet at least, is solid iris with some trees coming up in the middle of it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to get out with my hedge trimmers, and I'm going to cut all the iris down to the ground, and I'm going to plant watermelon in the middle of it. That'll give lots and lots of room for watermelon to grow. And I think it'll work. The soil in here is beautiful. But in fact, a couple of years ago, this is where I planted my Cherokee tan pumpkins that overtook the entire garden. So I know the soil back here is rich, and it'll support watermelons very well. But I need to cut down this iris first. And I am going to dig up this iris. I have it in other places. I don't need it here, and this is needed to be garden space. But in fact, I had intended to do that this spring, but I just haven't had time. I've been busy digging new garden beds. Now let's look at here how I've got this. Back up into the iris, and you can see. Perhaps you can see. You see the white paper cups on top of my tomato stakes. those are the cups that they were growing in, and they have their names on them. So, and I've also mapped this. I've got it on paper. So let's start over here on this side. We don't need to look at each individual tomato, but we'll start here. Okay, it's a Paul Robeson. And do you see all these specks, this rough stuff on this cup? Do you see that? You know what's made that? Wasps. Wasps. I come out here and I'll see wasps on these cups, and they're making their nest. You know, these wasps are called paper wasps. Paper wasps because they use paper. They'll be on wood, and they'll chew up the wood to make their nest. But they're also using the paper from these paper cups to make their nest. So all along here, there are 8 tomatoes in each of these rows. So I've got 24 tomatoes. Marigolds. So I've got marigolds planted between each of the tomatoes, and then bush beans along the outside, on one side. In this middle row are more nasturtiums. These are radishes. And again, more bush beans. The ones in this side are more of the dragon tongue beans. And these are, gosh, Field de Bagnol, which is not how you pronounce it at all in French. But this is like a French bean. And these tomato plants are just doing beautiful. They're about a foot tall now. So these are doing beautifully. And that is my garden. Oh, I almost forgot. So here from this side, this is where the other arbor is going to go, right in here. There is the little muscadine right here. So this fence post in front of me is going to be moved over 6 inches or so. And then also in here, against this fence here, these are cucumbers. I've got some cucumbers coming up in here. Well, these are pickling cucumbers. National pickling cucumbers right in here. Looks like about 1, 2, 3 or 4 plants right in here. Pickling cucumbers. Look at these marigolds. Aren't they doing well? And more weeds, of course. I'm staying on top of the weeds, but I need to get in with my wheelbarrow, my cart, and get wood chips to put on here, because this is crazy. It's taking too much time, and it's going to be getting really hot. I'm not going to be wanting to come out here keeping these beds weeded, so I'm going to get some wood chips on these. Down here, and down here on this end, the tomatoes. These tomatoes are just doing beautiful. And these are ticker melons. This is Aunt Ruby's German green. This one, San Marzano. Amish paste. Bonnie Best. So along here, these are my paste tomatoes. Paste and juice. And the rest of these are more of slicing. Some of them I've never grown before, like this one. Wapsicinian peach. Let's see, what is this one? Rutgers. Asparagus. The feathery foliage, that's asparagus. And these are some sunflowers. And more asparagus here. And let me walk through the bed rather than going around. On this side, I've got cosmos. Oh, look. Do you see it? Turn sideways. There we go. I see Better Boy and Floridale. Kellogg's breakfast. Large barred boar. Rose. An heirloom. Got the witch's yellow. Mr. Stripey here. As long as I don't have a terrible problem with disease this year, I should have a pretty good tomato harvest. I've got growing some really good tomatoes. Here he comes. Yep. So there's my garden. I'm hoping it's going to do well this year. I've worked really, really, really hard on it. Now I need to get a friend to help me put up this other arbor, and then I'm going to have to come up with some way to put a gate of some kind in here to keep the dog from going out there. I'm thinking I may have to put wood posts in here if I'm going to hang a gate there. I don't know any way to put a gate on T-posts. Actually, what I probably will do is do T-posts for the arbor, and then in front of the T-posts I will sink the wood post so I can then hang the gate. And the arbor will be leaning up against the T-post. The wood post will be in front of it, and I'll be able to hang gates on the wood post. That's my plan anyway, and that should happen within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully by the time I do another video. So let me go back in. I'm getting sprinkled on again. And let's go back inside. So I've got some cleaning up to do. Oh, I didn't show you this part right in here where this cardboard is. That looks awful. This is my patty pan squash. And over here, you see that other white cup. That's an 8-ball squash, which is a round zucchini. And that is it. So I'm going to go in, get out of the rain. It's going to start raining pretty soon. Right now it's just sort of a mist. So again, let's look one last look at my plants on my table, because they're not going to be here very much longer. I'm hoping I can find someone to give them away to, because I don't want to put those in the compost. But I will if I have to. Those are the marigolds that are going to go in that little chicken run that's right there by my front door. And when they get a little bit bigger, then I can move that chicken run out of the way, and we'll have marigolds growing that the chickens aren't going to eat. So, Kai, are you ready to go in? You want to go in, puppy? It's so good. Look at this. Let's go inside. Let's go in. You ready? Let's go in, Kai. Come on. Let's go in. Let's go. Kai. You want in? You want to go inside? Let's go. Come on. Come on, let's go in. What's this? Bye, y'all. See you next time.